Well, the allegation is that the Russians have compromat, and only, I guess, the Russian security services know whether or not they have that tape. This was compiled, the original report was compiled by a former British intelligence officer for an independent opposition research outfit here in Washington, D.C. This was a report that first begun in June. The last entry was as recent as October. And it has some incredibly lurid allegations, which I think, out of fairness to Mr. Trump and because of the possibility that children may be watching, we shouldn't go into what those allegations are. But this document has been circulating in Washington for some time. And as recently as November, I asked somebody in the intelligence community to pass a message to the people in the CIA dealing with this issue. They couldn't talk to me. That would be a breach of the law. And the message came back that they regarded these allegations as quote unquote credible. They also said that there was more than one tape. The report compiled by the British officer speaks of a single tape, but the message from within the CIA was that there was more than one tape, there was audio and video, more than one date, and in more than one location, the two locations being Moscow and St. Petersburg. This is why last week, according to the American press, principally the Washington Post and the New York Times, these allegations were included in an intelligence briefing to senior congressional leaders, to President Obama and to Mr. Trump himself. Now, there's a large gap between regarding allegations as credible and saying that they are accurate. And as we've been hearing, both the Kremlin is denying it and, of course, Mr. Trump on his Twitter feed is denying it as well.
He's denying it on Twitter, Paul, but we are expecting today, for the first time since July, a press conference with Mr. Trump. Do you think he needs to address these allegations to try and put them to bed?
Well, whether or not he needs to address them, I think most of the questions at this news conference will be about what's in this 35-page dossier, as well as this very lurid allegation about sexual perversity. There's no other word for it. There's an allegation that the Russians tried to manipulate Mr. Trump by offering him lucrative deals in Russia and by trying to establish a financial relationship with him. Now, at the same time as this dossier has come out, it also leaked out, barely noticed during the election, that a warrant was granted by the FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Court, which meets in secret, to investigate two Russian banks and a relationship they may or may not have had with some of Mr. Trump's associates. The allegation being that the Kremlin was transferring money into the Trump campaign. Now, I've spoken to the men who are the subject of this investigation. All of them deny it. But I think it is a story which is going to run and run. The idea being that Donald Trump was vulnerable to blackmail and that he was being manipulated financially or otherwise by the Kremlin. It's an astonishing allegation in a campaign which was unprecedented. I think this goes to new extremes.
Paul, thanks so much for joining us from Washington. Well, with me is Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes, part of Mr. Trump's transition team. Paul just said it there, Jan. These are astonishing allegations and what was indeed an astonishing campaign. I just need to get, firstly, your response to all of these allegations.
The more I'm here and the more I keep hearing, I'm becoming more and more skeptical because of the timing. Why was this not released earlier? First off, it was opposition research put together by evidently some Republicans that were never Trumpers. Why didn't they get out there to derail the nomination? Secondly, it's interesting that the intelligence services are releasing this, given Mr. Trump insulted them very badly last week. It is unverified. Until it is verified, I'm just too suspicious, because I've been around Washington now too long in seeing the way they play these games.
You're right, Jan, it is unverified. But the intelligence services are taking these allegations serious enough. They have investigated them, they've summarized them, but perhaps even more critically, they have briefed President-elect Trump and President Obama about them. Doesn't that show just how seriously they're taking it, and perhaps that there may be some truth to the allegations?
That's what we're being told. Why didn't this come out so much sooner? They have wanted to find a way to discredit Trump. They've wanted to find a way to discredit his winning the election. And are they trying to make it like the Comey letter that happened to Hillary? I just don't know what ploy is going on.
Okay, well, these allegations, as everyone keeps on saying, are not going to go away. Therefore, Congress wanted an investigation. Should we see one now, do you think?
I think we just have to wait and see we need to play this out. I think I am more intrigued about what is going to happen in the press conference, because I don't think he's going to spend a lot of time on it, because we need to know if he is going to divest himself from his properties or not. I mean, basically, a president and vice president is immune to any conflict of interest. The law is on his side. There is no mandate that says he has to divest. But what other presidents have done is they put things in blind trusts.